The moment the waiter cleared the second untouched cup of coffee, she knew she had been abandoned. The cafe was still warm with late afternoon light, cups clinking, laughter floating like something she could see but never hear, and yet she sat frozen at a small round table by the window, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the empty chair across from her. Her first date in years had begun with hope and ended in silence so loud it felt cruel. She was deaf, alone, and painfully aware that every minute she stayed made her look smaller to the world rushing past the glass. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that restore faith in humanity, take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel True Kindness Tales. These stories matter because people like her matter. Her name was Lena, and she had learned long ago how to read rooms without sound. She noticed the way glances lingered too long, the way pity sometimes crept into smiles, the way patience drained when conversations took effort. She had arrived early, smoothing her dress, rehearsing polite smiles, reminding herself that this time would be different. The man she was supposed to meet had smiled kindly during their messages, had promised he was willing to learn, willing to communicate, willing to try. But after 15 minutes of awkward gestures and hurried scribbles on napkins, he had checked his phone, muttered an apology she could only half understand, and stepped outside. He never came back, no text followed, no explanation, just absence. Lena stayed seated long after she should have left. Leaving felt like admitting defeat, like confirming the quiet fear that had followed her since childhood, that loving her required more patience than most people possessed. She traced the rim of her cup, watching steam fade into nothing, wondering why hope always seemed to cost her more than others. Around her, life continued effortlessly. Couples leaned toward each other. Friends laughed. A child tugged at her mother's sleeve. Lena felt invisible and painfully exposed at the same time. Her hearing loss had shaped every part of her life. It had taken her mother young, taken opportunities, taken confidence. She had fought hard to build independence, to earn respect, to believe she deserved companionship. Dating, though, remained a battlefield of misunderstandings and quiet rejections. She told herself she was used to it, that she was strong, that she didn't need anyone. Yet the ache in her chest betrayed her practiced resilience. Just as she began gathering her things, determined to escape before tears betrayed her, the cafe door swung open with sudden energy. Lena noticed movement first, then chaos in the most unexpected form. A tall man stepped inside, eyes tired but alert, pushing a wide stroller that seemed to carry not one, not two, but 4 small children. Quadruplets. Their faces were similar but distinct, their movements synchronized in curious, clumsy ways. The man paused, scanning the cafe with the practiced caution of someone used to managing more than most could imagine. People stared. Some smiled. Others looked overwhelmed just watching him. Lena, however, felt something different stir inside her. Not attraction, not yet, but recognition. This was someone who also lived in a world that demanded constant adaptation. Someone whose life clearly had not followed an easy script. The man struggled to maneuver the stroller between tables. A chair scraped, a cup wobbled dangerously close to spilling. Without thinking, Lena stood and gently moved her chair aside, creating space. The man looked up, surprise flashing across his face, followed by relief. He mouthed, "Thank you," his lips forming words she couldn't hear but understood. She nodded, smiling softly, then hesitated when one of the children locked eyes with her and broke into a wide, toothy grin. Something about that smile cracked open the heaviness she'd been carrying. All afternoon, the man guided the stroller to a stop near her table, clearly intending to keep the children contained while he ordered. He looked exhausted, not the careless exhaustion of someone who stayed up too late, but the bone-deep weariness of responsibility carried alone for too long. Lena noticed the way his shoulders remained tense even while smiling at his children, how his eyes constantly scanned for risks. She recognized that vigilance. It was the same alertness she carried in a world not designed for her. He struggled briefly with the ordering process, juggling attention between the children and the counter, gesturing apologetically when the barista seemed confused. Lena stepped closer, gently catching his attention. She pointed to her ears, shook her head slightly, then gestured toward the menu and wrote clearly on her phone, asking if she could help by ordering for him. His expression shifted from confusion to gratitude so quickly it almost hurt to see. As they waited, Lena stayed nearby, instinctively calming the children with exaggerated smiles and playful gestures. She made faces. She tapped the stroller rhythmically. The quadruplets responded with delighted fascination, giggling silently to her but loudly to everyone else. The cafe's attention shifted from awkward curiosity to warmth. Lena felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Useful, included, appreciated. When the drinks arrived, the man gestured toward her table, silently asking if it was okay to sit nearby. Lena nodded, motioning for him to take the empty chair left behind by the man who never returned. The irony wasn't lost on her, but it no longer stung. Instead, it felt like the universe quietly correcting itself. They communicated the way people do when they genuinely want to understand each other, through phones, gestures, scribbles, and patient eye contact. Lena explained her deafness without shame. He explained his situation with gentle humor and visible pride. He was a single father, widowed unexpectedly years earlier, navigating life with 4 children who depended on him completely. His days were structured chaos. His nights were exhaustion and worry. Dating, he admitted through typed words, felt impossible. Most people saw the children first and disappeared. Lena understood rejection rooted in circumstances beyond control. She understood being judged before being known. As the afternoon light shifted toward evening, something tender and fragile grew between them. Not romance yet, but connection, respect. The kind of understanding that doesn't need sound to be loud. Around them, the cafe transformed into a softer place. Other patrons smiled at the children. Someone helped retrieve a dropped toy. The barista brought extra napkins without being asked. Lena realized that kindness multiplied quietly when someone was brave enough to start it. Her loneliness, which had felt so heavy earlier, now felt lighter, shared, acknowledged. Time passed unnoticed. Lena had nowhere urgent to be. For once, she wasn't counting minutes or preparing herself for disappointment. She watched the man interact with his children, saw patience woven into every movement. She saw grief too, tucked carefully behind responsibility. She wondered if he noticed the scars she carried as well, the invisible ones left by years of feeling like an inconvenience. Eventually, the children grew restless. The man began the careful process of preparing to leave, gathering bags, wiping hands, checking straps. Lena helped without being asked, instinctively assisting, anticipating needs. When everything was ready, he hesitated, then typed something longer on his phone, his brow furrowed with nervousness. He thanked her not just for the help, but for seeing him, for not treating his life as a burden. Lena's chest tightened. She typed back honestly that she felt the same. As they stood by the door, the moment stretched. Life waited just outside, with all its noise and complications. The man gestured questioningly, asking if she would like to meet again, perhaps at the park, where the children could play and communication could flow freely. Lena felt fear flicker. Hope had betrayed her before. But something about his eyes held steady, patient, not demanding reassurance. She nodded. The door opened. Cool air rushed in. The cafe scene faded behind them, replaced by the open unpredictability of the world. As the man maneuvered the stroller outside, Lena walked beside him, helping guide wheels over the small step. They exchanged one last look before parting, one filled not with promises, but with possibility. That night Lena walked home differently. Her steps were lighter, her shoulders were relaxed. The rejection that had crushed her earlier no longer defined the day. It had merely been the wrong person stepping aside to make room for the right connection. She reflected on how easily life could change direction when kindness intervened, when patience replaced haste. Days turned into weeks. Park meetings followed. Shared routines developed. The children learned her gestures, responded to her expressions, included her naturally. The man learned sign language slowly, imperfectly, with dedication. Lena learned to trust moments again. They learned that love didn't arrive with grand gestures, but through consistency, understanding, and shared vulnerability. If this story is touching something inside you, if it's reminding you of moments when kindness changed your path, please take a second near the end of this video to like, comment, and share it. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Lena often thought back to that cafe, to the empty chair, to the pain she felt watching steam disappear from untouched coffee. She realized now that loneliness sometimes lingers just long enough to prepare us for something better. The man with the quadruplets hadn't filled a void. He had recognized one similar to his own, and stood beside it. Before this story ends, take a moment to comment below, and tell us what kindness means to you. Or share a moment when a stranger changed your life. Because sometimes, the most important connections begin not with perfect timing, but with imperfect circumstances and open hearts.